And, what this little bit of dialogue in this scene made me think of was, the Marvel series, which in our first recording, I blanked out on the name on. But now that they are launching a season 2 of it coming up soon, I remember is What If?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think they could take that one little line of dialogue and turn that into a whole, like they could do a Short Treks thing. Like, what if the Enterprise wasn't the first ship to encounter a Borg cube? What would happen if it was...
Oh, there's so much what if you could do with Star Trek.
Yeah, that would be such a good series, too. They wouldn't have to do much with it either. Yeah. They could just do little 5-10 minute episodes. They could animate it. They could do anything with it.
I mean, what if Locutus hadn't been rescued from the Borg?
Right.
Just so many things that you could continue to do that, so many jumping off points. What was the episode where Worf, every time he blinks his eyes, basically he's in a parallel universe?
Yeah.
That was a great one because that one even just showed here's big changes. Here's little tiny changes. Mm-hmm. You came in first place. You came in runner up. Just like these little tiny things that change.
Little details that have the biggest difference.
Yeah. It's that butterfly effect, What if a butterfly flapping its wings causes a tsunami halfway around the world?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think they could go at least give us a good season of television.
Oh, absolutely, you could.
I want to see a lot more. I mean, it's not just related to Star Trek, too. There's a lot of franchises right now that I think saw the success of the multiverse thing that's going on with Marvel right now and either could or possibly thinking about setting themselves up in a position to start doing some of the same things, but maybe just don't think of it.
It's kind of wild now that Paramount and CBS are back under one company.
Right.
You could cross over the JJ verse with the standard Star Trek universe. And now that you have new younger actors playing classic roles, you could have older JJ verse Kirk and Spock run into younger Prime universe Kirk and Spock. Start putting your head around some of this stuff.
Oh, this would get wild.
Yeah, because the JJ verse, that was 2009. That was almost 15 years ago now.
Yeah.
And now we've got new, younger versions of Kirk and Spock. And they could run into old versions of Kirk and Spock who already ran into an old version of original. You could really start doing some interesting stuff.
I think Discovery made a mention at one of the episodes in season 3.
They did, because they showed a person wearing a next gen uniform, but it turned out they were from the JJ verse.
Yeah. It would be so cool to watch them get into some of this stuff.
Yeah, you could do a lot with it, and I think it would be kind of cool. You'd have to be careful because you can't overdo it.
Yeah.
And you can't, this little fact of the eugenics wars happened 60, 70 years later than we originally said it did. You can't let that actually change anything that happened in the original series.
Right.
That stuff has to be left alone, So you got to be careful with it, but it can be real interesting to see what they do. So Sarah, the Romulan spy, shoots and kills James T. Kirk and then takes La'an hostage. They go into the Noonien Singh building. And La'an starts putting it together, talking it out, and realizes this lady is here to kill Khan. And they see the door with little kids' drawings and little kid writing, and it's Khan's room. At first, I didn't know how I felt about it, but it was very interesting just to see the idea of, hey, here's little kid Khan. And in time travel stories, you always hear that thing, what if you could shoot Hitler, but he was a baby?
I was actually just thinking about that one as well. And I don't know if it was an extension of that or where I remember the premise coming from was a Twilight Zone episode. Yeah. Not the original series, but one of the remake editions. I can't remember if it was the 80s one or the 2000s one with Forrest Whitaker, but it was one of those. And there was this guy who he was sent back in time specifically to kill Hitler, goes through the whole hour-long of shenanigans trying to get it set up right, ends up managing it, succeeds, and Hitler's parents go out and adopt a kid, and the kid they adopted ends up growing up to be
Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what if this is just... Well, I mean, I guess, not what if, because that's the plot of the episode.
Yeah.
But what if that was the case? Would she just have to kind of stand around and wait on the con production line? Make sure they didn't just...
Something else didn't happen, yeah.
I mean, talk about going home. You're not going to go home anymore. You're going to have to sit there and get the 72,000 versions of Ricardo Montalban they push out.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, too, because, like, con's going to happen. The eugenics... Would you stop, please? But the eugenics wars are going to happen no matter what, because they say we have done everything, and all it does is push it back a little further each and every time.
Right.
So now that con is a genetic experiment instead of just selective breeding, that means there's probably vials and vials and vials full of just con somewhere.
Yeah.
Just waiting to be, sperm plus egg, and boom, another con.
Reminds me of the Jurassic Park, the novel. You read the novel, all the different dinosaurs have like T-Rex version 3.9, like software. They got con version 1.5 right here. They got 1.6 just down the hall.
Yep. So this is an ongoing thing. Lon kind of gets the drop on the Romulan, takes her out, talks to Con for a minute, and he's like, "Are you going to kill me?" And she's like, "No, basically you are right with knowing what him being alive is going to be. It's going to be the eugenics wars and World War III, which will lead to Zephram Cochrane somehow not being from Alpha Centauri anymore. And then the Vulcans, and then blah, 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 blah." She goes back to her own time, gets on the ship, everything's where it's supposed to be. A woman from the temporal mechanics department, whose department doesn't exist yet, is there to recover any evidence and tell her she can't tell anybody about it. She calls Jim Kirk in one of the saddest Star Trek moments I can recall, and breaks down crying, and that's the end of the episode.
Such a happy ending.
Yeah, it really was. Like, I get a little choked up just looking at that going, God, that sucks.
Yeah.